Welcome aboard Setting the Hook with Captain Chris Condon, your front row seat to the best red fishing secrets on the South Carolina coast, with your host, Jay Harper. In every episode, Jay sits down with Captain Chris himself, the guy who spent 30 years chasing reds through the marshes, flats, and creeks. From tide tricks to lure hacks, we're talking real talk, no fluff. So grab your rod and let's set the hook.
Hey folks, welcome. I'm Jay Harper for Setting the Hook with Captain Chris Condon. And yes, this gentleman is indeed Captain Chris Condon. We are excited to be introducing the world to a brand new podcast series that really concentrates, for the most part, on red fishing. We are taking the opportunity to be joining you from the Fishing Expo in Charleston, South Carolina. We thought it'd be a great opportunity to be here to get this particular series going. We've got a lot of folks that we're excited to chat with, but we're most excited here in the debut episode to chat with Captain Chris Condon, a red fishing expert here in the Charleston, South Carolina area. Chris, it's great to get this going with you, and you are a native of the area, been fishing all of your life, but give us a little thumbnail of your background and experience.
Well, I've been guiding for over 30 years here in Charleston, predominantly all shallow water, light tackle for redfish. I've run flats boats and bay boats, almost every manufacturer's boat you can think of. Throw a lot of artificials, fish live bait, fish year round. I have run over 4,000 charters, so I've seen a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. And the red fishing experience really seems to be growing in popularity. And one of the reasons that we wanted to introduce this podcast series concentrating on red fishing, you are also heavily involved in the Southern Redfish Cup, which is a red fishing tournament here all up and down the primarily Carolina coast, but also in Georgia and expanding to other locations. I mean, just the popularity of the Southern Redfish Cup leads one to believe of the growing popularity of red fishing in general.
Well, yes, I'm the co-owner of the Southern Redfish Cup and have been for 5 years, and we love introducing red fishing to new participants. And we have regulars that fish all our tournaments. And it's really a sport that almost anybody can get involved in. You don't need a $500,000 boat. You don't have to ride way offshore to go catch them. I mean, it's a shallow water fish that anybody in a john boat, a kayak, off of land can catch them. And that's why they're so popular. And our tournament series lends itself to anybody can come fish them. We've had people win them that have never fished a tournament in their life, have signed up and won that first tournament they fished. We have guys that have been fishing it, have all the best tackle, the best boats. They've also won. So, I mean, it's fully encompassing and invites almost everyone.
Yeah, and, my company, the Game Time Sports Network, we've been involved in live streaming your tournaments here this past year, and I know just from our experience, we've seen it's really, really nice. We've seen dads and their sons and wives, and there are ladies that participate. So as you say, it's really catching on with everyone.
Husbands and wives, sons and dads. I mean, it's a great bonding experience. And like, these guys aren't they are competitive, but at the end of the day, they're all friends, and it's about camaraderie, and it's like being in a club.
Right. Well, when it comes to red fishing, I know that there are optimal seasons for that, depending on the part of the country, but for those that are just interested and their curiosity is piqued about red fishing, and that's one reason they're joining us here. When is the optimum season along the Carolinas anyway?
People consider fall the best time of year. I mean, in the winter in Charleston, the water clears up tremendously and you can sight cast them the easiest, and they get in big schools and they look like a big black moving cloud in the water. So it's really exciting. I mean, people spend all this money to go bone fishing and, all these tropical locations when we have a very similar type experience right here along the southeastern coast.
So, also, real quick, in terms of lures or bait, what are the suggested types of lures and or bait?
That's what makes it, it's so fun. You can catch them on all kinds of stuff. Our tournament participants, we're an all artificial tournament. So they use, jigs, lead head jigs or top water. People love catching them on top water. How exciting to see a redfish almost come out of the water and just go for it. I have guys that have been fishing with me and we just want to catch them on top water, Captain Chris. I'm like, sure, let's go. and live bait, during the summer. So our tournaments aren't live bait, but I run charters, and live bait fishing to me is a lot of fun, the process. People love watching me catch the bait, cut the bait, use live shrimp, use mud minnows, blue crabs, mullet, menhaden. It all works. You just got to know you got to try different things sometimes, figure out what's working that day with artificial, with live bait, or fly fishing. People love to catch them on fly rods.
Well, here in the Charleston area in particular, for that matter, all up and down the East Coast, the tides certainly come into play, right?
Absolutely. So at high tide, it can be a different fishery. High tide, the fish are tailing up in the grass. During the early fall, late summer on flood tides, their tails are sticking up out of the water and they're sitting still a lot of times. So it's such a great target to see a tail just sticking up out of the water and fire at it. At low tide, they really all year long seem to come together and group up at low tide in smaller areas. So picture this. You have this much water, they're spread out a little more. You may find groups of 6, 8, 3, 2, but at low tide, they have a lot less area to be in, so they group up, right? They all flood into the same little creek or fall into the same little channel. And that's a lot of times when you'll catch the most. You'll hear people catching 30 today or 40 today. It's usually when they're all congregated together or they're falling out of a little creek on an outgoing tide. That's when you can find them in groups.
Well, it's this type of information that I'm sure red fishermen, red fisher women, just folks that are out there looking for redfish will certainly appreciate. And we aim to get into all sorts of detail and tips. And again, we are here in Charleston, South Carolina at the Hadrill's
Point Shallow Water Expo.
Right, the Fishing Expo, Shallow Water Expo here. And we're going to be grabbing some other experts on various things, whether it be trolling motors or tackle or whatever the case may be.
Fishing rods, fishing reels, we got them all here.
Right, and we aim to, again, bring some of them up to the cameras and the microphones here at this event and just get into some more detail here on Setting the Hook with Captain Chris Condon. So stand by. We'll be joining you with more experts here on the podcast. Hey, Jay Harper once again for Setting the Hook with Captain Chris Condon. All right, Captain, got some questions for you. All
yes,
right,
sir.
I'm a newbie, and I don't have to make that up because I would be. I mean, I've done some red fishing over the years, but it's been a while. All right, I come to Captain Chris Condon. I've chartered your boat. I know nothing about red fishing. What kind of rod you going to throw in my hand? What kind of bait, test line? I mean, just give us a kind of a
all right, this may
little
seem
take on that.
Might seem funny, but I try to take the customer out of the equation.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
I try to make it so no matter what they do, it all works out.
Yeah.
But as far as the specifics, For the red fishing in Charleston, I like to use a medium light rod. I like a 7-footer. Some people like 7.6, but I'm on a boat and I want them to be able to swing it back without hitting me or hitting their friend that they came with. So I really like 7-footers on a boat. I like to use braided line. I like 15-pound, 17-pound light line. I consider those light. You got to have a little bit of strength because we're fishing around oyster beds. But for the most part, I'm putting a medium light rod in their hands with a 2,500 size reel. It's a spin casting reel, so they can, I show them when they get on the boat. You open the bail, you hold it with your pointing finger, and you let go when you come forward. I mean, almost everybody figures it out, or within 3 or 4 casts, they can figure it out. It's not like rocket science.
Now, is there a limit for the amount of redfish you can haul in here, at least in South Carolina?
Jay, I'm gonna be honest with you. In 30 years of red fishing, I'm not a really keep it type of fisherman. I don't keep them. I release them all.
Right.
There aren't South Carolina state limits. I think it's 3 per person, between 15 and 23 inches, and we adhere to that in our tournament because we bring them in. And then we will release them in our tournaments. We have a 99.9% release rate. So they bring them in, we keep them oxygenated. The people bring them in live wells that are either bringing in fresh water, salt water, pumping it in, or they have bubblers, or they add oxygen, or they bring them in alive. We help them keep them alive while they're in line. We turn them over quick, we weigh them, and then we release them. So from a charter perspective, I'm all catch and release.
Mm-hmm. So typically when you go out, speaking of the charters, how long of a day are we looking at on a
Typically
charter?
I run 4-hour charters. It doesn't take much longer than that to get it done. I don't need all day. It's something, redfish, and that's what's great about it. We're not taking an hour-long boat ride. I can get you to the fishing grounds in 10 minutes after we leave the dock. Or less.
Yeah, wow.
And if a storm approaches, I can get you back in 10 minutes. Right. Or less.
Again, we're talking with Captain Chris Condon. This is Setting the Hook, and we're in a little bit of activity here as we are at the Shallow Water Fishing Expo here in the Charleston, South Carolina area. We're actually across the channel here in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Chris, have you found any particular area up and down the Carolina coast that you've discovered to be optimum for red fishing, or is it just everywhere?
So, I have my particular areas that I've been fishing consistently on my charters when I go recreationally fishing for all these years. I have my favorite spots, but I feel like anywhere can be good along the coast. You look for certain signs, and when you know what signs to look for, you can catch them up and down the coast.
That's got to be kind of reassuring when you've got somebody that's paid you for a charter. You want to take them to where the fish are, for crying out loud. And you don't want to be riding the boat forever, so you can kind of just get to some of the hot spots.
If they aren't in your first spot or they're not in your second spot, you got to have spots. That's what makes the difference between a good guide and someone that's just starting out. I'm going to take your guide and I got one spot. Let's go. I got multiple options.
Right. Well, again, this is Setting the Hook with Captain Chris Condon. We're coming to you from Charleston, South Carolina, and we look to go to several different locations all up and down the Carolina coast for this particular series to interview and chat with various experts. We've got a bunch of them here at this fishing expo. We're going to grab some folks and give you some specific insight on various gear, boats, tackle, whatever the case may be. So we know you'll enjoy it. This is Setting the Hook with Captain Chris Condon.
So, your buddy got a smartwatch.
Message sent.
This ain't no place for distraction. Hook and gab. Time well spent.
Hey, welcome back to Setting the Hook with Captain Chris Condon. And as we said, we are at the Fishing Expo here in Mount Pleasant. Of course, that is just outside Charleston, South Carolina. We've been talking about how we were going to grab some guests, and boy, we've got a good one here. We want to bring along Mike Abel. He is with Hadrell's Point Tackle here in the Mount Pleasant area. I mean, Hadrell's Point Tackle, Mac, on Coleman Boulevard. I mean, good grief. How long has that been there? I know when I lived here, 20 years ago it was there. I mean, it's been around a while.
It's been there since before I was born.
Yeah, okay.
So 1983 was when Dad started the business, and that's where it really set off,
All right, so a family business that started, over 40 years ago.
Yeah, we're coming up on 40. This September will be 43 years, and so but it's family business through and through.
All right, well that's good to hear, and I know that Hadrell's Point Tackle is kind of like the go-to place for anything when it comes to fishing and other outdoor sports. Chris, I know you've had a long relationship with these folks for probably ever since you've been out there fishing.
Absolutely, I have. So, I mean, I think his dad sent me my first charter, and they supported me when I was a young fishing guide and had no business. I got my business through the tackle shop.
You've been doing it a long time. That's.
Let's not age me, okay? But I remember totally when you were a little kid. I remember when you got that. Wasn't it a tail fisher, your first boat? Or
it was, yeah. That's a really good memory. It was a Pathfinder tunnel hull, is what it was.
Yeah,
but that was I had the boat before I had the car.
There you go.
And that was a problem getting it to the ramp. That was a huge problem.
What happened? Dad drop it in, and you need him there after moultrie? Dad
would drop me in. He would, either Shim Creek or drop me in at Rimley's, and I remember one day, it was a busy day, I'm sure, and I had to call him. He had to come get me, and he got a speeding ticket on the way to get me, and he was livid. He was so mad.
What was the rush? Was it about to rain or something?
I think he was just busy at the tackle shop, and I'm calling Dad up saying, "Hey, can you come pick me up from the ramp?" And he's probably knee deep in, helping people or doing whatever he was doing at the time, and I guess he was rushing through the 25-mile-an-hour speed,
I remember your granddad, Dick. He couldn't take over?
No.
Or your mom?
No.
It was the whole family was always in there.
Well, Mom just retired this year. Well, no, excuse me. She retired last year. This is her first full year of retirement. But yes, I mean, Mom doing the bookkeeping upstairs, Dad starting and running the shop up until 2020. And then my brother and I taking it over in January of 2020, and here we are, 2026.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. I mean, so when I first started to come to Hadrell's, I would buy the curly tail grubs in the bins and the lead heads in the bins. How have you seen it change? Now we've got all these like space age baits, and I mean, what happened to those bins? How did we go from the bins to what we have now? I mean, and does it make that big a difference in your eyes? I know they're more expensive. Those things were like, I get a handful of them for $1.
Yeah, it was, I think more so the manufacturers probably changed a little bit, and it was at points in time where you could buy 100-pack of Haw River grubs and then put them in those bins, and every once in a while we do have people come back looking for that. Like very seldom.
I look for them still.
Well, they're not 20. They wouldn't be 20 cents a piece
no,
anymore.
They'd be $1 a piece.
They would be $1 a piece.
But I had a favorite, the pink tail with the fleck.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of really good colors. It's just, unfortunately, I think some of those businesses have gone out of business. And so, but it's changed. I mean, the industry's changed a lot, looking at it over the last 20, 30 years between electronics, trolling motors, the lures that they're coming out with. I mean, it's changed a lot. It really has. And I think a lot of it's for the better, I mean, it's, I guess maybe some companies feel like if you're not changing, you're not doing anything. But at the same time, if you make a really good quality bait, it'll stick around for a long time, too.
Well, on that subject, let me ask you this, and this is just out of my personal wanting to know. I know y'all always went through big distributors. Now with these companies, do you go direct to like Z-Man and Pure Fishing in Berkeley as opposed to going through a Big Rock and stuff that's now gone?
It changed, when Dad stepped away, and even years prior to that, I was taking care of the ordering, and it's made it a little more complicated because we are ordering more direct than we have ever, with your Big Rock being gone. I mean, last year when they started to, get extremely slow on shipping and stuff, it makes it a little bit harder. You're placing more orders, and possibly we're forecasting orders further out. I'll buy stuff for half of the year for some vendors, when in turn, when Big Rock was around, you could order it, place a 3-pallet order on a Monday and get it on a Wednesday. Some of that is still there, though. Some of it is. I mean, there's been some other distributors that have kind of picked up their, trying to pick up where they left off, but Big Rock was a huge company. And so to fill those shoes is pretty tough, but I think there's definitely companies that are trying and doing a great job at it too. I mean, Folsom has been another one that we brought on and bought from them more so recently over the last couple of years that we were not doing so prior to, and they've done a really good job.
So for the new baits that they're coming out with, like, let's just use, for example, and I have no plug sponsor, but
right.
So the Prawn Star, like, do you just trust Z-Man to know that they're going to push that and people are going to come looking for it by listening to the rep, or do you just, how do you know what the next new great thing is?
I think a lot of that just kind of leans on your gut. I mean, I guess really being in business for 43 years and me being a part of it for 30. You just kind of, I think your gut will tell you. I mean, yeah, you're going to whiff some of them, and you're going to be a home run in others. I mean, the Prawn Star was a huge one. Taking it back to last year when they introduced the 3.5. I went on a limb and ordered hundreds of like the Golden Boy color. I thought that was going to be the color, and it was. And even for our expo last year, when a lot of places were out of it, like Hable still had it.
Nice.
So like we had it at the expo last year when nobody else had it. And so, you get lucky in situations like that.
So you call on your industry knowledge basically from being in it to know, hey, I want that color. That's what sells. That's what works when I fish.
I mean, you look at, Mustad was just showing me a new shrimp that they're coming out with in a couple weeks. And you can kind of look at the table and look at those 5 or 6 different colors, and you can kind of get an idea. Which ones are going to sell the most. You'll go heavy on those and maybe go lighter on some of the others, but just to have a good representation of it. And you do rely on your rep. I mean, your rep doesn't want to see you with inventory on the wall for, too
What happens
long.
to that inventory that doesn't sell? Do they buy it
Close
back?
out.
Huh?
Close out.
Close out.
I try as hard as possible, and we have very rarely, if at all, done it, is sending product back. I feel like it's my obligation. If I order it, I feel like I should take it and I should sell it and or have to close it out.
That's great.
If I take that risk, I think that should be on me. In the 40-something years, unless it was misshipped and I really didn't want that many or whatever it was, then we keep it and we close it out.
Now, this conversation begs one question. Have you had any flops? Not maybe that you thought, but just that, I mean, I don't want to put any company down or anything.
Yeah.
Did anything not work?
Oh, man, what would it be?
A swing and a miss, right?
Yeah, there are. I mean, and I guess I don't want to mention them. There was a flop in a particular rod, a company that makes rods, and they make other things as well. But it just ended up being that they made these trolling rods, and a lot of them for our industry, they were too long. So they came without a butt. So you had the blade of the rod that you would have to add the butt to it, and once you added the butt of the rod to it, it just made it too long. Almost, most of your trolling stuff is going to be 6 feet in length, 6.5 at most, and some of these rods, by the time you put a butt on it, are almost a 7-foot rod, and it was just too long.
They needed to consult you before they made it.
That particular company has far more experience than I do. And the tough thing about their job is they're not just looking at a Charleston, Mount Pleasant. They're looking at what the Florida guys are using, what the West Coast guys are using, because the West Coast and the East Coast guys in fishing are night and day. I mean, you got the tuna rail guys on the West Coast using 8-foot rods and 9-foot, longer rods, where we're not doing that here. So, I mean, I totally get it. I thought about that. Like, if I were in their shoes, like, man, that would be a tough job to really have to forecast how much to do or how to build it or what need is in there.
Have you ever had customers turn you on to certain items that perhaps you weren't aware of, and maybe people are coming in asking for stuff, and you're like, man, we need to check this out?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a prime example of that would be when Bubba Blade came out. I think Bubba Blade was the one that's closest in memory. But I mean, we're always listening to our customers and trying to make sure that we fill their needs as much as we can. I need another 10,000 square feet at the shop, so bad. But we do. I mean, we definitely. I mean, we listen to them, and if we can do it, we'll do it. And if we think it's going to be a hot item, we definitely jump on it. Another one is Andy Moy's lures for your offshore stuff. He makes some incredible custom lures, and it takes a little bit getting those ahead of time. But a lot of my buddies and customers who are fishing offshore a lot, you're like, that's what you got to have. So we definitely try and stay in touch with those guys and get what the latest and greatest is. I got a lot of buddies that help me out for sure.
All right, so let's talk about, since this podcast is about red fishing, can we talk about red fishing for a second?
Yeah.
How have you seen the industry change from a retailer's perspective? Have you seen now, like we talked about in the beginning, we could buy them out of the bins. Has all these fancy lures just changed the whole game? I mean, are more people doing it? Tell us about that.
I mean, no question, there's definitely more people doing it. You look from, one, our town, Mount Pleasant, Charleston is just booming. It feels like there's no room left in town to build anything, but that's booming. And I think, especially after COVID, that really lit a fire for a lot of people to get outside and go do things. And so, if you look at the number of recreational fishing licenses from the state of South Carolina, I mean, if you look at that on a chart, it's not like a flat, that thing is spiked. So we definitely had a big boom. And you got a lot more people on the water. So I think, with more people comes more pressure on the fishery. But, I think, utilizing this platform and other platforms too, trying to educate them on how to better handle fish and tackle the correct tackle to use and things, just so really just we can be preventative and conservative at the same time, just maintaining a good fishery here.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. Mike here and Mike's dad, we're on the forefront of conservation, catch and release, and we're all about that at the Southern Redfish Cup. And my charters have pretty much always been catch and release. So we really appreciate what they have done for that whole aspect of the fishing. They're not about stringers and keeping a bunch of fish. I mean, at least redfish. They're about catch and release, and Mike is a champion of that.
Well, I do want to make a comment about that too. With CCA, I think sometimes people get the misinterpretation that CCA is just all about not keeping anything, and it's we don't want to have. It's almost like maybe some people get the interpretation that we're not wanting that, when in fact we really just want something that's sustainable. I mean, our president, Scott Whitaker of CCA South Carolina, I mean, he's not going to turn down a redfish or a trout, on the plate. So it's not that, but I think it is, abiding by the laws, given by the state, and then just better fishing practices, wetting your hands or using a towel when you're handling those fish. Even if you release a fish, it doesn't mean that it's going to survive. You still have some type of mortality rate on fish after you've caught it. especially on our big breeding fish. I mean, you've done the stuff at the jetties and the grillage where you're catching those 20 and 30 pounders, and folks are hanging them by their lip and stuff like that. I think part of that, in conjunction with the population that we have, the increase in population, is just educating some of those folks that may not have grown up doing it, to really just educate them. I think that's the big thing, and that's one of the reasons I like this expo is it's a passion of mine to be responsible in our fishery. So like my kids, your kids, every grandkids, all the way down the line can really enjoy it and have a fishery.
Excellent. Well said. Thank you for that.
All right. Well, Mike, hey, it looks like the expo has been a big success. Have you been pleased with how it's turned out?
Very pleased. I was a little concerned. I think really just because of the weather. When you get a day in January where it's almost 65 degrees and sunshine and no rain, you kind of could get a little worried.
Yeah, and as we record this, you've got NFL playoffs going on, so that might have some folks staying at the house. But again, you've got a good turnout here.
I'm very pleased with it. I'm very happy the way everything's gone so far. I mean, looking for a big day tomorrow too.
All right, very good. Well, Mike Abel, thank you with Hadrell's Point Tackle here in the Charleston area. You've got a location in Mount Pleasant. You got one across the way too, right?
We've got one in West Ashley. We do.
All right. Well, very good. We appreciate you joining us on Setting the Hook with Captain Chris Condon.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Setting the Hook with Captain Chris Condon. Hope you're ready to hit the water. Join us next time for more redfish gold straight from the marshes. Setting the Hook is hosted by Jay Harper and brought to you by the Game Time Sports Network. Subscribe, cast off, and we'll catch you soon.